Hey guys, how are ya? It's your girl, Jackie from the Financial Literacy Tribe, coming at you with a brand new video. So for today, I thought we could talk about my top 10 first-time homebuyer tips that I must share. As many of you know, I'm currently in the process right now of saving up to purchase my first home, and it is extremely stressful. Okay, it's so stressful, but hopefully worth it. And so I just wanted to go ahead and share the tips that I have found to be extremely helpful during my process. I just wanted to pass them along to you. Cool? So let's jump right in. Tip number 1 definitely involves some self-reflection and some time to just think about the situation that you're currently in, because I will tell you guys, friends, I know everybody's like,
oh, rent is so high right now. Like, I might as well just be paying a mortgage if I'm going to be paying that much in rent.
no. Like, let me just let you know. Purchasing a house and owning a house is definitely going to be more of a financial burden than renting. Hands down. And the reason for that is because, yes, maybe your actual mortgage payment is going to be about the same as what it is that you're paying in terms of rent. That may be true. But what you may not be considering is taxes, property taxes. I live in northern New Jersey. Holy guacamole, the taxes are high. I know that's obviously going to vary from state to state. I assume there are many states where the property taxes are probably super low and super affordable. So definitely maybe that's not something that you necessarily have to take into consideration. But where I live, it's serious, guys. It's really, really high. And in addition to property taxes, maintenance is also the big thing that people forget about. I'm renting currently, as you guys are well aware. So whenever something goes wrong, my sink backs up. My toilet is clogged. My doorbell doesn't work. I don't know, whatever. Whenever there's an issue in my apartment, I literally just have to call up my super or call up my landlord, and they will send somebody to fix it. And I don't have to worry about it. Versus when you own your own home, literally all of the maintenance, all of it is your responsibility, which can get extremely expensive. So definitely be sure to factor that in when you think about whether or not this is the best choice for you economically. You just want to think about whether or not this is something that you really want to do, because it is a heck of a lot more responsibility and it's a heck of a lot more money when you're factoring in your property taxes, your maintenance, on top of your mortgage costs. As soon as you decide that you definitely want to go ahead and purchase a home, the next thing that you should be thinking about is whether or not you are going to qualify for a mortgage. Very few of us have just like hundreds of thousands of dollars lying around that we can just buy a whole entire house with. So the majority of us are going to have to qualify with a bank or a lender to get a mortgage to pay for our house, unfortunately. So basically you should be looking into what are specifically the things that lenders are looking at. That includes usually your credit score. It includes whether you have enough saved for a down payment. Most lenders have like minimums that you have to put down depending on what type of mortgage it is that you plan on getting. So just as an example, if you plan on getting an FHA loan, they usually have a pretty low down payment. It's like 3.5%, which is low in comparison to more traditional mortgages where you have to put at least 20% down. So depending on what type of mortgage it is that you plan on getting, that's going to vary. But in general, they're looking at your credit score. They're looking at how much it is that you have to put down. And they're also looking at your employment records. They want to make sure that if they're giving you the money to purchase this house, that you're going to make good on it and be able to pay your mortgage every single month. So usually you have to provide some sort of proof of employment for however long, 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years, in order for you to qualify. So one note that I want to make about those things, the qualifiers, in order for you to qualify for a mortgage, is that it takes time, right? Like if your credit score is already great, I'm happy for you. But if it's like really, really low, it's going to take you time to build your credit, and it's going to take you time to save up the money for the down payment. So you want to make sure that you're doing those things relatively early in your process so that you have everything ready to go by the time you're going to walk into an actual bank and ask for a mortgage. You want to be prepared. So just keep that in mind. Identify how much it is that you can afford prior to starting to look for houses. I think that that's a really important step because you do not want to fall in love with a house and then find that you don't qualify to even get the amount that that house costs. That would be very heartbreaking. So you want to kind of have an idea before you start looking in terms of how much it is that you're probably going to qualify for. Definitely, ideally, before you even start looking for a house, I do recommend getting a pre-approval letter from a mortgage lender. But if you're just like initially looking on like Zillow or some other app and seeing kind of like what the houses look like in your area where you plan on buying, definitely you're going to want to hop on a website. I will put a few different options in the description box because there are different websites where you can punch in the amount that you have in terms of a down payment, the amount that you make on a yearly basis, and your credit score, and they'll kind of tell you around how much house you should be buying, basically. And so that'll give you kind of a rough estimate. So you can use that in your online internet late night searches. As a general guideline, and I have mentioned this in other videos prior to this, the recommendation in terms of your budget, staying on budget, is that you should not be spending more than 30% of your total family household income on housing. So just as an example, let's just say between you and your partner, if you have a partner, you guys in total bring home $2,000 a month between the two of you. I'm just using a number. Then you would know that your mortgage payments should be less than $600 every single month because that's about 30% of 2,000. So use that as a guideline. You do not want to be house poor, which is to say you have this big, beautiful house and then it turns out that you can't really afford it and your payments are way more than you can afford. That is a bad position to be in, trust me. So just make sure that you're trying your best to stay as close to that 30% as you possibly can. My next step is to maximize your savings. I bet you thought that you just had to put your money for your down payment in like a regular high yield savings account and just let it sit there. Nuh-uh, honey, that's not the case. You can actually use an IRA to maximize your savings. The returns are usually higher, and yes, you are allowed to use it. The IRS actually allows for you to withdraw up to $10,000 from your IRA or your Roth IRA and use that if you are a first-time home buyer. You can use that towards your housing costs, your down payment, or whatever it is that you need it for. So definitely feel free to use that because, as mentioned, the returns are going to be higher and you're totally allowed to do it without incurring any type of penalty. If it's a regular traditional IRA, you're still going to have to pay taxes on it. But if you use the Roth, you don't have to pay taxes on it. So just keep that in mind. My next step is to make sure that you are using and taking full advantage of any state or federal programs that you qualify for. I had talked about briefly earlier, like the FHA loans. That's a federal program, and they are very, very handy because you don't have to come up with a full 20% for a down payment. If it's your first time purchasing a home, you only have to come up with 3.5%, which is so much more helpful. So definitely make sure that you're looking into and researching as many federal and state programs that you qualify for in your particular state. Usually they're income-based, so just make sure that you look into the stipulations and whether it is that you qualify for them, and then take full advantage. You know, I've even heard about some state programs that will actually cover the full amount of your down payment. Like, come on. So definitely do your research and take full advantage of it because they are out there. My next tip is to make sure that prior to house searching, to your actual searching for your home that you're looking for, that you and your partner, whoever it is that you're buying this house with, or if you're buying this house by yourself, then have a conversation with yourself. But make sure that you are clear and everybody is on the same page in terms of what are the specifications for this house that you are looking for. I highly recommend having a very clear list that outlines your must-haves, if you have any must-haves, versus your would likes, because there's a big difference between a I must have versus I would like. So just make sure that you're very clear on those, and deal breakers. Make sure that you are very, very clear on deal breakers and get into as much detail as humanly possible. And I'm going to tell you why. The reason is because once you actually start looking at houses, it can be such an emotional process, and you just start to get emotionally involved with these houses. But at the end of the day, if you have a nice clear cut list that very clearly highlights all of the things that you absolutely must have and all of the things that are absolutely deal breakers for you, it's going to make the process so much easier. So just make sure that you do that ahead of time. My next tip is that once you have found a good realtor, be sure to grill them, especially if they've been doing this for a really long time. Like, literally do not feel bad about asking them millions of questions, because that's what they're there for. They are the expert. This is their expertise. Their realm of expertise is in selling houses or buying houses. So definitely feel free to ask them all the questions that you may potentially have, specific to your area, specific to house buying, specific to the mortgage process. Like, literally don't be afraid to use them as an actual resource. So be sure to do that. My last tip for you is, while you are going through this entire process of searching for houses and you think that you have it all together, while you're going through the actual process, do not, I ask you, do not stop saving. And the reason for that is because you may think that you have all the money that you're going to need for a down payment, for closing costs, or whatever. But honey, let me tell you, you never know. Buying a house is a very expensive process. Sometimes people forget to factor in the fact that they have to pay for inspections to even find if there's any like internal issues with the house. So that's coming out of your pocket if you're a buyer. The closing costs, sometimes they can be a little bit more than what you thought that they were going to be. Definitely sometimes your house may have repairs or things that the actual seller was not willing to cover. So that's coming out of your pocket. So definitely it ends up being more expensive than what you probably anticipated. So my recommendation is, while you're going through the process and searching for houses and whatever, continue to save. Don't stop. Continue to put money away, because you're probably going to need it. Trust me. And guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, be sure to give me a like and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you are not currently subscribed. If you would like additional resources such as what we discussed today, be sure to check out my blog, which is available at focusedfrugalfab.com. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.